really understanding men is to realize men can go to their female side and whine and complain and have addictions. When a men have addictions, it's low testosterone and always high estrogen. The estrogen is produced when you're dependent on something outside yourself to feel good. You're dependent on something outside yourself to give you pleasure. That's all estrogen stimulating. Now, I want estrogen. I just need to have a lot more testosterone. If I don't have a lot more testosterone, then I become addicted. I become overly dependent on things that aren't good for me. I also have negative emotions. All negative emotions in men are when their estrogen levels are surging and their testosterone is low. When a man has high testosterone, he can also have high estrogen as long as it stays his authentic level of testosterone. That's a romantic man. See, a romantic man is, I'm doing business. I'm mainly doing my male side. I'm mainly doing testosterone. You're not always thinking, I love this person. Right. But I'm not in love with him and share my life with him, right? So I'm on my male side, but I anticipate coming home to my wife and my family, or if I'm single, I'm going on a date. So just anticipating that keeps me human in terms of having testosterone and some estrogen in my body. And this is what we need. Relationships help men become more. What I told Bonnie when I married her, I said, after a few months, I said, you've given like a color to my life. I wasn't even aware my life was like black and white. It was solving problems. But women bring a whole bouquet of flowers and colors and look at the little things that we go on walks and she'd be loving nature. Now I love nature. It grew on me. And what that means, and this is the point I was just making, through relating with her while she was seeing me as a successful husband. All right. So she's seeing me as a successful husband. So my testosterone is high. And I'm listening to her and connecting with her and doing things for her because she has different needs from me, like sex, going slow in sex, being attentive in sex, being affectionate in sex, saying things like, I love you, you're so beautiful. See, men will say that once and they don't know you say it every time. Men are like a caveman when it comes to sex or animal, whatever. You need to once you get to a more intimate level in the bedroom, you want to be able to have conversation. Otherwise, men are just lost in the lower part of their brain. But it goes to, do you love me? Do you like me? Tell me what you like. Oh, I really enjoy this. A little conversation and sex can keep him in his human side while he's also making love to you. It's a much richer whole experience. So there's so much about through relationship, a man can find his softer side, we'll call it that way, his vulnerable side, his emotional side, his tender side, his loving side. He can find it if he feels successful. If he doesn't feel successful in the relationship, then he goes over to his tender, loving side. And for a little while, that's good. But his male side's going weaker and weaker and weaker. And then he becomes addicted to negative emotions. He gets addicted to drugs, of course, and porn. He become overly addicted to these things and he just gets passive. So you see what's happening in the younger generation so much, all this passivity, because the masculinity on our planet is so much weaker. The young 21-year-olds, their testosterone levels are 20% lower than 30 years ago. Wow. This is a phenomenon that's happening today. And we need to build men up. We've been building women up, and that's good. Women need to have freedom and support. Now we have to learn how to use that power that you have, women, to provide the kind of support that will bring forth the power in a man. Just to real briefly point out another gender difference. And again, these are always extremes to be able to talk about it. As human beings, we are a blend of both. But when men go too feminine, then that's when you feel they're needy, they're overly emotional, they're too demanding, they're irritable, or they lose interest in you. Okay, so part of when a man goes too far to his female side, he doesn't have the masculine confidence to bond with you. Instead, he ends up just feeling dependent on you for pleasure and sex, and now he's on his female side. So he'll go off and lower testosterone. He needs a new woman that will give him a bump, because a new relationship does stimulate a bump in testosterone in men. That's all about dopamine. Most people now know dopamine gives you pleasure and motivation and so forth, and clarity and focus, all these kind of good things from dopamine. And newness, that, meet a new woman, a new challenge will give you a spike of dopamine. And that will raise his testosterone temporarily, which is why porn, for example, men who do a lot of porn, they have statistics on them. They'll last 8 minutes, the whole thing. They go online, it's 8 minutes of porn and they're done. And it's what's very funny is these hotels have porn in them. And they say, oh, here's our porn prices, but you can get unlimited porn the whole night through. You can have for additional fee. They know that it's going to be 8 minutes and it turns off. Okay, that's how it can last, and that's to find it, to do it, and to be done with it. And rarely do they go back to the same woman. And that's because they didn't bond with a real person, first of all. And second, they didn't bond mentally. They don't feel supported mentally. They don't give support mentally. Having conversation, who are you? What do you think? How do you relate to the world? What are some of your life experiences? How are you? What are your values? This is all bonding with, resonating with someone, and you like them. And ironically, you like them because they're different from you. Now, that's very interesting because you look at, there was a funny Seinfeld episode once where Seinfeld, is always looking for love, and he finds this woman and they're in this great relationship. He's talking to George and he says, we broke up. He says, what? You broke up? I thought you really liked her a lot. He says, yeah, she can finish every joke. We never argue. We're just alike. But then I realized I don't want to be with myself all the time. That's why I want to be with a relationship.
Right.
Who awakens inside of us something different from who we are. In a sense, men sort of have a built-in selfishness, which is, I have to take care of myself so that I can take care of others. So that's what really it's about. It's like, if you really look at it from a higher point of view, who are the men who dedicate themselves to the army mainly and be selfless in that way? They give their lives for their family. They do the dirty jobs. They do the difficult jobs. This is masculinity because that's what builds testosterone. But you also, before you can give to others, you have to first give to yourself. That's the old thing on the airplane, before you put the mask on your child, you have to put the mask on yourself first. And men are very good at that. We have an instinct that says, okay, do I have what I need to get to my goal? And women often see that as selfishness, not understanding that man who wants to take care of himself, actually, it doesn't mean he's selfish, but he does need to have a job to do. So you have to keep giving men jobs to do. If they don't have a job to do, or job instructions, which is part of what my books provide, is he doesn't know what to do. When he doesn't know what to do, testosterone goes down, estrogen goes up. And so he doesn't have motivation. He becomes passive. Then he goes to something that will give him a burst of testosterone, which would be depending on porn or depending on alcohol, depending on watching TV. Oh, and another one is to playing the games now,
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of that is fine. That's called relaxation time. But ultimately what builds testosterone is when my choices, my decisions, my behaviors contribute to others, and I did it. So that's a sense of independence. Independence produces testosterone. Dependence produces estrogen. Now, I know a lot of women go, whoa, I don't want to be so dependent on a man. That's not a good thing. No, to be fully dependent on somebody is not a good thing. That's why we have the potential today to have the best relationships ever. As women can be more financially independent, then they can balance that with the part of them that wants to be dependent on another for the bonus. Men, think of men as dessert. And while if I said to women, if I told a bunch of men in front of women, men, just think about your wife as dessert, some women would be a little offended by that. But you say to an audience, which I do a lot of audiences, women, just think about men. You're the main meal. You have your life. And what a man does is he's dessert. Think of him as just dessert. And all the men go, yeah, give me, don't put it all on me. Just let me do the good stuff, so to speak, which is provide a higher level of happiness. So the theme that men would love to hear from you is that you're a happy woman, you're a fulfilled woman, but you're happier spending time with him. You're happier with him. See, that's what he needs to hear, is that you can be happy, but you can be happier with him. And there's a million ways to demonstrate that, but there's a million ways not to demonstrate that, is when you put too much on a man to make you happy, because you're unhappy and you make him responsible. I'll say it again. When you're unhappy and you make him responsible, you're going to knock down his testosterone. When you're unhappy and he makes you happy, yes, his testosterone will go up. But a healthier version of it is you're going to be more fulfilled in your life and you look to him for maybe 1/10 of your happiness. But it's the best part of it. It's the extra, it's the growth part. It's to grow in love through intimacy and through sharing and through connecting.